So we actually decided this month that we are stopping chemotherapy, and we are just going to be doing metabolic. So,
hey brave girl, how you do the things that you do? Don't mind me.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Brave Talk Show, the show for brave women craving the connection that comes with real conversations about the concerns and TMI details we face every day. I'm Brittany.
I'm Theresa.
I'm Robyn.
And I'm Vanessa. Be sure to subscribe to join our weekly conversations.
First of all, Theresa, I'm glad I'm not the only one that shed some tears. Honestly, I
We can always count on Theresa.
Well, first, what kind of cancer is it that your husband has?
Sure. He has stage 4 B2 thymoma, which is cancer of the thymus. And in a relapse, he doesn't have a thymus anymore. He was removed the first time he had cancer. So when it came back, it filled pretty much his entire chest cavity, his lungs, his pleura, his diaphragm, and into his 9th rib. So that's where it's all at.
Okay. So did he do any chemo or anything his first time?
So the first time that we got cancer, and I do, you guys might catch that I do say we got cancer, and I didn't even know that I said it until someone pointed it out, and I'm like, oh, I do say that. But it just feels right because cancer isn't just affecting him; it affects our whole family, and we're one, right? So I feel it too. It just in different ways. So the first time we got cancer, we did the complete traditional route. He got surgery, radiation, and chemo, and I think we naively went into it believing, hey, it's going to get rid of it and we're going to be done. And the doctor that he had was just so positive. He was like, oh, you're young, you're strong. We're going to just throw everything at it and it's going to be gone. You don't have to worry about it. And I think one of the mistakes that I look back at is I think we were naive to believe that just because the doctor said that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be more cautious and start thinking, why did he get cancer in the first place? The problem with a lot of allopathic medicine is that it only treats the symptoms and it doesn't get to the root cause. And most of the time with traditional medicine, they look at, we don't know the cause. But if you look at the other research, there's a lot of research that shows that it's a metabolic disease. And metabolic disease affects the mitochondria of your cells. And how do we influence the mitochondria of our cells? It really is foundational into our metabolism, which is fueled by our diet, our lifestyle, our stress levels. All of those things factor into it. And so metabolic therapy is a multidimensional approach that really works at fixing that mitochondria that's not working properly and that's leading your body to create cancer. That's how you get rid of it. Now, am I against chemo? Am I against all of that? No. I think that it can be part of your healing, but it's not what truly is going to heal. Kind of think of it as chemo and radiation and stuff. If you had like a big forest full of trees, it cuts down the trees so that it's not a big of a mess, but you still have to deal with the roots. What were those roots? That's where metabolic can come in. What we have realized in the second time around is the second relapse, unfortunately, my husband got a terminal diagnosis, and the doctors told him that chemo wouldn't do anything really other than maybe prolong his life a little longer. They said 2 to 5 years. And so we believed them at first. And then we started thinking about it, and it was like, well, screw that. I'm not going to just roll over and let you tell us that we're going to die. The doctors were wrong the first time that it was going to go away, so why am I going to believe you that 2 to 5 years he's going to be gone, So we started really looking into what I already knew, but I had to grow too. I didn't know about metabolic therapy for cancer, but we started researching that, and we decided we're going to go for it because I'm not going to just have him take some palliative chemo and that's it. So he did. He has been taking palliative chemo for the last 9 months, along with doing metabolic therapy. All palliative chemo is just enough chemo to hopefully stop it from growing so fast that it kills you sooner. That's really it. And the doctor was very clear, it may not work. And this is the interesting thing. Since we started applying metabolic therapy, his tumors have been shrinking. And much to the dismay of the doctors. She was like, we're lucky if we're going to be able to get it to just stay, let alone, shrink. Like, shrink is like, not going to happen. We're going to let it stay. Well, it's shrinking, and it's been shrinking. And guess what? Every time my husband goes and sees that MD, she reminds him that he will not be cured and that he will die. As a matter of fact, he actually said to her, I don't know if I want to continue to get these CT scans because every time I get CT scans, I'm getting radiation in my body, and that can't be good for me. And she actually said to him, well, don't worry about that because the damage effects for CT scans don't show up for another 20 to 30 years, and you won't live that long. That's what she said to him.
Wow.
So 9 months now into taking chemotherapy and seeing this doctor who reminds my husband he's going to die every 3 weeks when he sees him or sees her. And how horrible chemo is it just makes you feel like shit. Sorry, guys, but that's the best word for it. And it takes I would say it knocks him out for about a week and a half. And we have a life to live. And we got to a place this last month where my husband was saying, you know what? My tumors are shrinking. I feel good. The only time I don't feel good is when I get chemo. And I can't imagine living my whole life doing chemo every 3 weeks for the rest of my life. I would rather feel good, and even if I have 10 or 20 years feeling good versus, doing chemo and feeling bad. So we actually decided this month that we are stopping chemotherapy, and we are just going to be doing metabolic. So we will be keeping you guys posted on how that does.
Effective immediately?
Yeah, no, in fact, we called the doctor last week and said we will not be, he was supposed to get chemo on Friday, and we said we will not be there. And she was like, well, the risk. It's like, come on, lady, you don't know what the risk, come on. You told it wouldn't even work. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let us try it. Now, are we stupid? If we come back and get scans and it's starting to grow again, will we be like, we're still not going to do it? No, we'll reconsider going back to chemo. But why can't we at least try and see what we can do with just pure metabolic? Yeah. It's worth trying. My husband will be happier and feeling better. I think it's worth it. So he and I both agreed we're going to try it. So we have skipped it, and we're going to skip the next one. His next scan is November 5th, and then we will see what happens without having 2 more rounds of chemo.
I look forward to following along.
Wow,
Thank you.
that's brave.
That's huge. And
Yeah.
that's a big reason why I decided, I'm not terminal this go around, but that's a big reason why I decided to forego chemo, because I just wanted to take my life back into my own hands.
Amen.
And so that's good. And my heart goes out to you because I feel like as the caregiver, in a lot of ways, that's a harder job than the cancer, the person fighting cancer. Like, I would much rather be me than my husband, who has had to carry the household for so long. So props to you.
Thank you.
Yes. Brittany, so we went to college together, and I just remember you just being the most outgoing, like friendly, happy-go-lucky person. And so when I started following your story and found out that you dealt with postpartum depression and dealt with self-harm, I was actually really surprised. Although, to be fair, I found out as growing older and whatever that a lot of people that deal with depression are those people like you who are just so friendly and outgoing, and you just see this like happy face all the time. So I guess I'm not that surprised, but I am. So my question to you is, did you ever deal with depression growing up in your younger years?
I did. So when I was 13, my parents bought a house. We moved from West Jordan, which was kind of considered the city, to Riverton, which was like, it was so cool to drive a farm truck and to wear a cowboy buckle. And like Riverton now is so different. Like we would just go out and ride 4-wheelers wherever we wanted. So it was a big shift for me to move, and I hated my parents for making us move. I had a really hard time making friends. I actually had lots of people make fun of me and my clothes, and I sat alone at lunch a lot. I had one friend who was in my neighborhood with me who was a boy, and he would, like, I kind of had him to lean on after school and different things, but he started wanting to be in the popular group, and so he started swearing more and doing things to get into the popular group, and he didn't want to be seen with me at all, and so I lost him as a friend, and it got really hard for me my 8th and my 9th grade year, and a few things changed, and I think it was more, like, it was gradual for me, and then my senior year, I kind of started doing things like I auditioned for the school news station where we would do this, like, announce the school news every morning. And I auditioned just on a whim, thinking I'll never get it. Like, I'm not cute enough. I'm not, good enough in front of the camera and all of these things. And I was like, I'll just try it. And I made it. And I remember that was like a confidence boost that I needed, where I was like, oh my gosh, this is really fun. And I had a group of friends. And college, when I went off to college was like the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, getting out of my house and kind of giving that chance to reinvent myself. And like, okay, who is Brittany and who does Brittany want to be? Amen. And that was like the biggest shift for me, was just being able to be like, okay, who do I want to be? Let's go be her. And I loved college. Like, I loved just the social scene. I loved being in charge of me. I loved everything about it. So yes, to answer your question, I had been depressed before, and but nothing to the effect of what I went through after my third baby. That after the third baby was like, I had never been suicidal when I was younger, and I had never participated in self-harm. It was just a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of like isolation, depression, and a lot of just thinking low of myself. But then after my third baby is kind of when the hormones got involved, and then the self-harm and everything kind of threw in a
There's
wrench.
so many more questions I could ask you about that, but I'm not. But yes, that was the Brittany I knew, the new and improved Brittany. Vanessa, so you grew up in Haiti.
I did.
And you were adopted. So you answered part of my question that the adoption was not good, correct? So my sister-in-law was actually adopted when she was a baby. And so but she was adopted into a wonderful family, loving family, religious, and but she still struggled with abandonment issues and feeling never accepted or never loved enough, because I think she compared herself. And I think a lot of people, even if they are in good homes or whatever, deal with those abandonment issues. Did you or do you deal with abandonment issues? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I didn't. So growing up in Haiti is different. Haiti is like a third world country, so you want to I was 13 when I was adopted, so I was older.
Okay.
I think in Haiti too, our culture is kind of different a little bit, where we're very family oriented. So like in a home, you have a grandma and grandpa, your aunt and uncle, it's like all of us kind of live together all the time. And so when my family, we're really close. Like, we don't have a lot. I always says, like, we don't have the basic necessities sometimes, but what we have is love. So there was always love. So when this family wanted to adopt me, because my family actually owned an orphanage in Haiti. So when this family wanted to adopt me, it was like, I didn't want to go, but my family was like, you get a better life. And it was an open adoption where I can contact my family, I can talk to them. And so there was always love there. Like, my family is very loving. And so I never felt like it was kind of like, we getting rid of you, what kind of stuff. So I never deal with that, but I do see it when my kids that are parents give up on them all the time. And I think the best way to look at it, and I see my friends that I grew up with in Haiti that were adopted that deal with it kind of like, why? But I think the way I look at it is kind of like a better opportunity for me, because then now I'm in a position where I get to help my family in Haiti and I get to help the kids in Haiti. So I look at it as a way to just create a path for the kids. And even though my success story wasn't great, I'm still grateful that I was able to come here, because I take my situation and make it into something different. Like, not a victim, not even a survivor, just like the life that I want to live. So that's kind of my
Wonderful.
focus. Yeah.
Wonderful answer. Thank you.
Yeah, so you do have a different adoption story. It wasn't like your mom didn't love you. They just
Yeah.
wanted to give you more.
A
come
better
to
life,
America,
a better life, yeah.
But then you got into a bad family when you got
Yes,
here.
and that's why it is my family. Like, I didn't have the thing in my family that adopted me were very well off. They were religious, but then it was a nightmare.
And that
So,
family was here in the States.
yeah, in Utah.
That's so
Here in
sad.
One of these days we'll get Vanessa to tell the story. but
Yeah.
she's
Yeah, it's
pretty
crazy.
tight-lipped.
Yeah, I'll need to hear that
Yeah.
story sometime. Okay, Robyn, it's your turn. So, obviously,
Yeah, we got
Robyn
an audience.
you're one of my favorite to follow
us
on
a dance.
Instagram. You're always entertaining. I love it. Love watching you dance. And I'm impressed by your entrepreneurship. how many companies and startups you do. So my question to you is, how many companies do you own now, or jobs do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know.
Yeah, like, you know? Let's see.
Lost track.
So I technically own my husband's trucking company. That is under my name, but thankfully he does run that. I'm just moral support.
Is that for like tax benefits and
Yeah, why is
Utah
that?
stuff?
I know.
So it's a women-run thing?
Yeah. It's actually funny because my husband's on set right now, and he's never on set. This is the first time he's ever even been
Welcome,
here.
Johnny.
Welcome, but he's so I can't say too much, because you dropped the food off. But it's just better in construction for women to own it. You get more state jobs and things like that. So he transferred it into my name, and now I've got the power.
What's really funny, my mom, that's my mom's job, is when people claim women or minority businesses, she has to go investigate and see.
Make
if it's
sure.
been done.
So
I'm not going to turn
so
you guys in.
Brittany's mom gonna show up at your door.
No, I really do run it though. I know everything. I'm always.
You got a
like,
meeting
you
every
can't get
Monday, he's
another
gotta sit
truck
down and
yet?
report.
Yeah. We go to lunch every week and discuss business. Okay, so I own Safe by Robyn, which is my self-defense and empowerment company. I co-own Let's Glow Utah, which is a teeth whitening company. I own Girls Gone Woke, which is like a woman's empowerment coaching.
And you
slash,
just started that, right?
Yes, / retreat. The Brave Talk Show. We're all invested into the Brave Talk Show.
Are you building
that
something?
four?
But 5.
Yeah.
Aren't you building something too?
And,
house.
Yep, I have a vacation rental.
Yes.
That's a business in itself that I
looks
head up on
amazing.
that. Do you have anything else? I actually have a couple other things coming down the pipe too.
Okay.
Which is,
Because 5 is a lot, but
Which is
that seems
crazy.
low for you.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I should have more. There's more than 5. Yeah, so I have 5 right now.
She's not
that
done
I'm
though. She's
fully
not done.
Taxes must be
immersed in.
fun in April, huh?
Yeah, well, no, we never get them done in April. We have to extend till
4
October.
times a year.
'cause it's crazy, yeah. And yeah, I actually have a couple, specifically one other idea that it's.
Can you tell us?
Yeah.
No.
Can you?
No, she's like.
No,
she's
I'm not going to tell you yet.
Okay.
Well, let's just say I've already filed the trademark, so you know I'm serious about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't
This is a
play.
2-part question.
Yes.
How do you come up with the ideas of your jobs and your new?
So I'm kind of a dream chaser. Like anything that comes into my head, my husband will tell you, I have no filter of like I can't achieve. Like I'm like, let's do it tomorrow. We're gonna go build this big house. We're gonna go start a company. And so if I just have like a thought or like I find a need,
You're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. Which is, I actually think maybe there's some science behind it. I was talking to a lady and she's like, I think you have adult ADHD. I'm like, why? And she's like, well, because your hands are in every
You're all
spot.
over
She's
the
like,
place.
but you have no risk barometer. Like nothing, there's no filter of like, shouldn't do this, can't do this. Like I'm like, oh yeah,
So
for
you're
sure, I could do that. And
high
so
risk assessment.
it's really just, sometimes I'll have thoughts or like my intuition will say like there's a need for this, or I kind of just dream it and then I'm like, I'm gonna do it.
It's amazing all that
Yeah.
you balance.
People.
Yeah, well, I don't
really
know if
impressive.
I'm really that balanced. I'm really off balance, but I love what I do.
You do
and-
it.
I almost think Vanessa's
You make it
lady.
work.
Yeah, I'm tipping over all the time, but yeah, those are my little baby businesses.
Well, it's fun to follow along.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining.
Now you
Yeah,
have to
thanks
teach
for-
people. You're so good at it.
I should teach.
Girls
And
Gone
actually,
Woke.
it's funny because
Yeah.
it stemmed from like it's not a part of my life anymore now, so not a lot of people know. But I owned a large dance studio in Utah.
Yeah.
We had multiple locations, and I had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of family come through my door over the decade, and so that's kind of where I started like entrepreneurial.
And you sold that, correct?
Yeah, I sold that
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Jeez,
So
girl.
that was like the foundation, and then I was like, dude, if I can run a dance studio with psycho
what else can I
moms
do?
and all these girls and their drama and their periods and their hormones and their competitiveness, I'm like, I can own 5 small businesses. Yeah. So that's where it started.
That's
awesome.
wonderful.
Great question. Thank you.
So mine is kind of a group question, but I'm going to point something at you first. It's about mindset, but it kind of leads into what she was saying. But actually, your response about like you kind of just put your mind to it and you do it.
Yeah.
Like one thing I'll never forget is your passport story. I don't know how most
That
people
was
would
amazing.
Like,
Oh
yes.
my
I was
God.
following
Like,
along like everybody else
was gonna
talking.
I feel like I was like
Here's-
refreshing my
Here's how a
page.
typical person handles it, because that happened to me when I was on my way to Portugal, right? I just cried and then got on a flight to Hawaii and gave up all my dreams.
Yeah.
Robyn was all over the
Robyn
place.
is like, I'm not
I
taking
will
it.
find
no.
a way. And that kind of actually rings true to my personality.
Yeah.
Like my friends that like that were in Mexico with us, one of them, who's my closest friend, she's like, I knew you would get here. She's like, I knew if it could have been illegal, it could have been, like, it doesn't matter, like, how you
Johnny
would have.
put you in the suitcase.
She's like,
Get in there.
Into Mexico.
She's like, I just knew that you would be the one person who's like, I'll walk across the border if I have to. Like, because that's just how I really have no risk barometer. Like, I'm like, I'll get there. Like,
I was filling my husband
one.
in on your story as it was happening, and I have to give your husband major props
Yeah.
because my husband never would have given
No,
in
my
to like,
husband
let's
would
just
not
fly.
have.
Was it Tucson?
yeah, we just
Like, let's just
flew
fly
on a
there to
whim.
see,
Yeah,
and
my
then let's just
husband.
walk and see. You know, like he would never would have. So the fact that your husband, obviously, you guys, you're
Props
still
to
together. And
Johnny.
this is your, this is how you do things. That's great. My husband never.
Johnny just along for the
Is
ride.
he just going? Like, my husband would not have. He would have been like, no.
You know what?
It's a Robyn show.
Johnny is very. He is so supportive of my wild ideas, and I think sometimes I forget. Like most people will be like, "No," and he doesn't. He lets my wings just fly, and I'm so good for it. He did complain a little at first. Like I think at first he thought we were for sure done, and I was like, "No," and he grumbled getting on the airplane, and I was like, "I promise we'll make it there." But I was shocked. Like he went for it, and.
You guys were like your suitcase on the like you
Yeah,
were.
like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, but we persevered.
Good
And
team.
once I think he knew, like, plan is on, you're coming with me. Like at first he's like, we're not going to Tucson, and then I'm like, get on the flight.
So to
We
fill
had
in,
no hotel. We had no.
I want to fill in the audience in case
Yeah.
anybody didn't follow. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. That she had something going on in Mexico that she was supposed to go to.
Vacation.
Big, huge.
Turns out
massive-
her passport, like you didn't have one or something.
No,
so
Expired.
she realized she needed a passport, and then she flew out of state to get one because there was nothing
Only
in
this
Utah.
state, yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you did it within 24 hours of needing to fly to Mexico.
Oh, I was late to Mexico, and I didn't even. I was actually told by the state and by this agency, do not come here. We will not give you your passport.
Exactly, and then you
I
showed
said,
up.
oh, I'm still coming, and I'm going to convince you to give me my passport.
You're like,
So then we get there. There's no Ubers. We have to walk. It
I
looks
remember
like we
watching
were
your story with your like suitcase.
Yeah,
I'm
like
like
everything.
oh my
I feel like there was a point in time where I was like, the spirit is telling you give up. You don't have a car. You don't like just stop. But I was like, no. So we're walking through the desert. We get there. They already told me don't come, and if you come, we won't let you in. And so I'm like standing there. The police officer, I'm like, please let me in. And it was so crazy. He was just like, come in. Like did it, and I was like,
He's like,
okay.
this lady.
Then they gave me my pass. Well, they got me a passport. So then I booked another flight to Mexico. And then the passport wasn't done in time. So then I was going to miss that flight. It was just crazy. But anyways, I made it there, and it was all because I didn't give up.
That's
Amen.
I just decided to go. And props to Johnny for coming along.
I know.
He did complain before, but once he knew plan was in motion, I think he
There's
knows
no way
like,
to
you
stop
don't
it.
stop the wrecking
No,
ball.
no.
Like that's, I'm either going to get wrecked by the wrecking ball, or I'm just going to hold on and go with her. So thank you, Johnny, for coming along.
That is hilarious.
That's like the best story. I'll never forget. Like I said, I filled my husband in throughout the happenings. But so I guess like my question for all of you individually though, because you guys have all overcome so much, it's like amazing. I've heard some of your stories before, but just like feeling the raw emotion when you guys speak your stories is great. What is like the biggest mindset or like positive thinking? Obviously, has helped you all so much, like in the way you guys have overcome everything. But like, if you had to give any advice to anyone about struggling with anything really, or being in a dark place, like what would you say has gotten you through? And maybe some of these have been answered in a way with some of the prior questions, but
Go on.
No, go ahead.
All of us are like, I got it.
I just want to be done with mine to get it out there. Let me get it out.
Get it out.
I think like for me, it's very like the victim. Like I teach myself, like I allow myself a certain amount of time to process, because you have to process it, you know, and kind of process it. But then I think I look at it, it's like I'm not a victim. Like I'm not gonna become a product of the circumstances that happened to me. I have to look at how do I get out of it? Because I think when you stay in the hole, it doesn't get any better. You get deeper into the hole. So I always say I give myself 72 hours to process it, and then I have to get moving. I have to start working on it. So I think my advice would be like, don't ever allow somebody to make you a victim of your circumstances. Is to process it and find a way and your support to help you get out of it. So that's always kind of been my mindset.
I love that.
no, that's great.
It reminds me of, I saw like a meme once that was like, you know, if you're going through something, like cry it out and then get your big girl panties on.
And get going.
And get going, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So I think for me, mine is more of a spiritual mindset that kind of helps me through everything that I've been through. And that is recognizing that I'm being continuously refined. So from the Christian perspective would be that in life, we're going to go through trials. And like a silversmith puts silver in fire in order to make that silver pure. And the silversmith, the way that he knows that silver is pure is that when it is in its purest state, he can see his own reflection in that metal. But he has to burn out all of those impurities first, and it's not always going to be fun, right? It's going to be hot, but he's going to be sweating there over that fire with you. And so that's my relationship with God. I know that life is full of trials, and as a matter of fact, it's been promised. As a believer, it's been promised to me that I'm going to go through trials. But that promise has been that through those trials, I am going to be made pure. And I am going to be able to reflect the face of God, of Jesus, in my struggles, through what I learn and how God can use those things in my life for good, not just for my life, but for other people's lives. And so that's kind of how I've seen every trial I've gone through. It's like, this sucks. This sucks so bad. And sometimes I don't see how the good can come out of this. But I always go back to those verses about how God uses all things for good, and going back to that imagery of the silversmith, and just trusting that even when I don't see it. And it's always in hindsight after that trial is over that I'm like, oh, that's what you were doing. Okay. And that's what keeps me going. Is I should probably create like a memory box of some sort or a memory wall that reminds me of all the things that God has gotten me through and how he's used those things for good, so that anytime I have other trials in my life that I can remember that and keep going.
That's awesome. Love that.
Yeah.
I would say that my mind is a muscle. And soon as I learned that I can train my mind just like I can train my body to be fit, that, what I'm genetically predispositioned to think or to feel, or generations that, my grandma and my mom, their emotions and just all of that, that's all an option. That I have, my brain is a muscle, and I can train it and use it as a tool and get my brain in shape.
I love that.
That's actually what I was going to base mine off of. Obviously, we're all going to have trials and hardships and things, but when you have those, you want your mind to be at its strongest place. So I am really big into self-development, like making sure that I'm meditating. I listen to podcasts that teach me things. I go to therapy, like educating my brain. So when those things come, I can handle those better. But also, similar over here, I have the mentality and the mindset that, like, I will not be a victim, I will be a victor. And if you look at any story where there is a victor, like David and Goliath, they all have the same basic qualities, and that's courage, bravery, authenticity. They believe in God and they never give up. And when I just get back to the root of every problem, I'm like, I'm a victor. And victors are the ones at the end of every story that people remember, but they have to have these basic qualities. And I just come back to the foundations and plow through. Yeah.
I love that.
Let's get one more from Taryn. I think
Yeah.
one
yeah.
more,
Taryn.
Okay, we'll do kind of a quick one. Listening to all this makes me think about morning routines.
Ooh.
So I want to know all your morning routines.
So I actually used to hate mornings, like hate. Literally slept till 9 or 10. So I was just like, that's just how I was. But as I've become more self-aware and done more self-development, I've got myself into a much healthier morning routine. And it's funny because I've done it pretty solid for the past 6 months, but past couple weeks I've had some things happening in my life that have kind of thrown me, so I'm not as good. But I typically try to get to the gym very first thing in the morning. That's either between 5 or 6, which is like audacity. I would say that because I am not a morning person. And then after that, I've been going on a walk outside because I like to get outside, straight butted after my gym. Then I will meditate and listen to a podcast all before my kids wake up.
Whoa.
And if I can do that, my day is awesome. If I don't, it's bad. But that's kind of my...
And do you take a nap after your kids wake up?
Yes, and I always take a nap.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, but morning routine for me, I hate mornings too. So I don't really have a routine. My thing right now, my kids wake up way before me. I don't sleep. I'm like a night owl. Like
You were pregnant too. So
yeah, and then now
phase
it's
of life.
different. It's
Yeah.
definitely different. Like I don't sleep. So I like get 4 hours of sleep and then I'm like up all through the night. Like I will wake up in the middle of the night and I like clean and my husband wake up and like, oh,
It's 2 a.m.
exactly. It's like
on.
the house is clean. Literally don't sleep. So I'm a sleep-in person, but I have to get my kids ready for school because my husband doesn't do that. So I wake up, I get everybody ready for school, breakfast, lunch pack, and then I go back to sleep until I have to work because I do have to get up at like 9:30 to do my morning meeting or have court. So I'll go back. They leave at 8 and I'll stay for like 8 till 8:15 and like 8 till 9:15 and then I have court in 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah,
But
I
then
love it.
right now is a lot of nap time.
Well, makes sense. You're growing a
Days
human.
really soon. So.
So my morning looks different every day.
Yeah. I love that.
Just roll out of bed.
Well, I love mornings. I'm definitely a morning person. I used to not be, but I've over the years becoming a teacher, forcing me to wake up early in the morning. Like it just kind of turned me into a morning person. And my morning routine has kind of shifted and evolved, with each season. Right now, if I can say what my current morning routine is right now, is that I wake up around 6:15, 6:30 in the morning, and I get up, I get my coffee. I love that my husband already makes the coffee, so I don't have to worry about making it. I just go and get my cup of coffee. I sit down and I read my Bible. I probably do about 15 minutes of a Bible study every morning. And then I go through my calendar for the day and I block out my schedule. So I kind of look at like what appointments do I have? What are the projects that I'm working on? And then I just plug and actually do a whole block schedule for the entire day. So even spontaneous time is blocked out. Like this is the time to do whatever you want, but that is the time for you to do whatever you want. And it's not any other time. So I do that, and then I go downstairs and I either do one of two things. I either do the Vibe plate, which is this vibrating plate that vibrates at a lot of different megahertz, but you stand on it, and I'm using the megahertz right now to drain my lymphatics. So I stand on that for about 5 minutes, and I do that every other day. And then on the off days, I will lift some weights, and not for very long, but I just a few weights for about 5 to 10 minutes, just to kind of get my little spaghetti arms formed. And then after that, I wake up my kids, and I get them going. Wake them up for school. Hey, starting to get dressed, that kind of a thing. I get dressed at that point. And then at 7:30, we do our Bible study. So I do a Bible study with my kids every morning. And what we're doing right now, which is really awesome, there's an app called Streetlights. My kids love hip hop. And getting kids to sit down and like listen to the Bible, we'd love to believe that our kids are just going to be like, oh, I can't wait to listen to a Bible story. So, try to make it as fun but also interesting as possible. They love Streetlights. So what Streetlights is this app. It's for free. And a number of Christian hip-hop artists have come together, and they actually speak the Bible in spoken word to a hip-hop beat. It was actually designed for teens in inner cities who did not know how to read, to be able to get the Bible to them because they wouldn't read because they couldn't read. So it was a way for them to put their headphones on and be able to actually listen to the word. So we actually put that on. So right now we're going through Genesis. We did Book of John, we did Acts, all that kind of stuff. But now we're going through Genesis, and we just do a chapter a morning. So it's like 3 minutes. Some chapters are 3 minutes. Some chapters might be 7 minutes. And then after we read that, I just talk about, okay, what did you pick up? What did you notice? What are some interesting things that you heard? What questions do you have? We do a prayer, eat breakfast, and then I walk them to school. I love that we live close enough to walk to school now. I've never been in a place where we've been able to walk to school. So I use that time to get my dog. I have a little Chewini, and he loves to run, and if he doesn't run, he will run on his own. He will go on adventures, so you got to take that dog on a walk. So I get his leash, and I walk my kids to school, and that way I get my movement in as well. The dog gets his opportunity to go out so he doesn't run away. He can use the restroom, all of that good stuff. And I get to spend some time with my kids, too, on that walk and just talk and look at trees, which I love to do. And then I come back and get started on my work day, brush my teeth and
Yours
start
is
working.
dialed in, Theresa.
I'm like tired. I'm like,
That's really
that's
surprising.
I'm like, that's like,
No, you guys don't know this, but half the time during set, her phone will start dinging because she has these alarms. And it's like, take your vitamins, ding. Free time, ding.
I'm
It's
actually needing
amazing.
it less because I'm on my adrenal supplements now, and my memory is coming back. So I actually have less alarms.
like a
So it's a
time
good thing.
Yeah, but she's
Morning.
dialed
You haven't
in. I
heard an
need to be
alarm
more
yet?
like
I
that.
know.
No, I haven't. That's really good.
Adrenals.
Yeah.
Take care of your
Tired,
adrenals,
just hearing
people.
that
my morning is
Yeah.
like, get out the door.
Survival.
I know, right? They made it.
No, mine's a lot easier. So I say this before my morning sickness and getting pregnant through my life in the toilet. Literally. I wake up 6:30. I always exercise. and then read some type of devotional scriptures, something like that, and look at my day planner. I can't function without a day planner. See what's on my schedule, and then get the kids off to school. But I don't get my kids ready for school. Like even my 5-year-old, like he dresses himself.
Oh, lucky you.
They
My
feed
kids,
themselves
They're
breakfast.
self-sufficient
They-
or whatever
man.
that is.
Getting
Sure
my
they are.
kids to fry their own eggs has been
we
like
just eat
game
cereal.
changer.
I know, I'm like Friday. I'm
Nobody's
like,
frying
I know, I'm
eggs
like,
on
it's cereal
that
with
makes
the
me feel
oatmeal
good,
packets.
That's a start. But the frying the eggs is like, it's the ultimate. Once that happens, you're good.
But don't worry,
Yeah.
we're not eating sugar cereal, Teresa.
Good,
It's like
good, 'cause-
Cheerios.
That's
Good.
awesome.
I know we do the sugar
You guys had really good
Great questions.
questions.
Yeah.
Holy
Thank
cow.
you.
And you
good
probably
episode.
learned that like we can't even take a short question like what's your morning routine?
You're like, oh my
We're
gosh.
so long-winded. So thank you for
try not to be. I try
bearing
not
with
to be.
us. But we were so happy you guys came. Thanks for being viewers. We love and appreciate you and everyone out there who likes to listen to our long-winded conversation. We hope that you get something and that you're brave enough to share with others. So thank you for joining our brave conversation today.
Yes, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell notification so that you don't miss our next episode.
Ready for more? Click on the next video for more brave conversations.
And if you have some brave topics you'd like us to discuss, leave your suggestions below. We'd love to hear from you.
See you
See you
next
next week.
week.
Hey, brave girl, how you do the thing?